I freeze up for a moment, unsure if I should follow him. I made a promise, I tell myself. Best friends don't break promises. Remember, guys, I say. My friends all look just as scared as me. We stick together, no matter what. The inseparable six, right? They all agree and hesitantly huddle up at the door. I face the dazzling light one more time, take a deep breath, and step through the threshold. Hopefully, this is the last leap of faith I'll have to make today. At first, the light overwhelms me. My eyes just can't seem to adjust to the brightness, which sends a jolt of terror running through me. What if I've gone blind? I blink a few more times, and fuzzy objects start to fill my sight. Clarity returns, and the world comes into focus. I'm standing inside a circular room, painted a heavenly white. Wires and machinery clutter the room, as does desks, and stacks upon stacks of paper. Caden's already standing near a monstrous blinking mechanism that lies at the center of the room. I wonder what this does, he says. Each of my friends gasps as they enter the room. The machine in the center of the room resembles an hourglass, wide at the top and bottom, but thin in the middle. Wires and cables extend from its metallic frame like veins across the floor. Surrounding the hourglass machine are smaller, bed-like stations. All the cables protruding from the center machine connect into the steel beds, as if it's some sort of mainframe. The beds are tilted upward, facing the hourglass in an almost standing position. Glass, bowl-like instruments are located at the head of the beds. They look like they're supposed to slide over the user's head while they sleep. There are no straps on the beds, and they have thin cushioning on their frames, suggesting that they were made with comfort in mind. The tables at the far end of the room are fortified by massive amounts of papers and documents. Some have overflowed onto the floor, and some stacks have fallen on their sides. Clearly, a great deal of work and research have been done before this place was abandoned, if it's abandoned. I couldn't see any specific light source, and yet the room remains painfully bright. It's as if the paint itself is illuminating the room. I hadn't realized it right away, but the center of the room feels lower than the rest of the room. The ceiling too seems higher the closer I get to the middle. The room is shaped like an egg, a tiny world within our own. Hugo Industries, Josiah reads aloud. He's inspecting a document upon one of the desks. Where your greatest dreams come true. So this place is owned by some sort of company, I say. Any idea what they made or why they were here? Well, there's a crap ton of notes here, Josiah says, his eyes scanning the pages as fast as he can. So far, it seems like they were onto something big regarding sleep technology. Sleep technology? Cora inquires. I assist Josiah in his search for answers. There's a stack of drawings for different machines that resemble the ones in this room. Some drawings are of the castle, and some detail the surrounding area. The sketch at the bottom of the pile sends a shiver up my spine. It looks eerily similar to our campsite. It appears that they are working on some kind of process in which they could manipulate dreams to make them feel more vivid and real, Josiah explains. To make dreams controllable. The sketches start to make no sense. Images of impossible things. People flying over oceans, men and women standing atop mountains in swimsuits, and one sketch of a man walking across the surface of the sun. What does pawns mean? Adora asks. I look up from the drawings and find Adora inspecting one of the beds. There are words etched into the side. What's that, Adora? Josiah asks, excitedly rushing over to the next discovery. I can practically see the gears of his mind whirling. It says Pawns version 6.0 on the side of this bed, she clarifies. Josiah quickly pushes her aside and examines the inscription with a furrowed brow. He rubs his hand across his chin and thinks for a moment, muttering something to himself. The pons is a part of the brain that controls many functions of dreaming, he finally states. All the pieces start falling into place. It doesn't take a genius like Josiah to put together the clues. Anyone want to take a wild guess and say that this Hugo Corp has something to do with dreams? Cora mutters. I think I know how to turn these beds on, Caden says. He's pacing back and forth between the central machine and one of the pawns machines. There's a large switch attached to the hourglass that he has his eye on. Another bad idea from Caden in the making. Even if you did, there's no way we're getting in one of these things, I argue. If we all get into one of these machines, he continues, ignoring me, and I flip the switch, maybe they'll work. It's a long shot, I know. Caden, stop it. You're being crazy. Finally, he starts paying attention. We have no idea what these things do or what they'll do to us. Come on, man. This should be so obvious. Maybe they don't do anything at all, but I'd rather be safe than brain dead. No, you listen, he counters. Of all things, he sounds sad, defeated. If we leave this place, I'll never get it out of my head. It'll be a what if that never goes away. Can you really live your life without knowing? Come on. This is the kind of thing I've been talking about since the first day we met, Kale. You really gonna take that away from me? I look around and realize all my friends are watching with solemn faces. The inseparable six from years ago would kill for a chance to find out what this place was capable of. What changed? Why did we hesitate where we used to jump? Let's just try it, Kale. Caden puts his arm around my shoulder. Like you said, maybe nothing will happen at all. But memories aren't made by letting moments slip by. I stare at him and see past the sincerity in his eyes. Deep down, there's that jaded grit, the kind that tells me no matter what I say, he's flipping that switch. He just wants me to be there when he does it. Fine, I sigh, but when this all goes to shit, I get first dibs on knocking your teeth out. Okay, good thing I never got braces then, he says. He pushes me away and continues to search for clues on how to make the hourglass contraption work. Anybody else have any objections? Josiah, maybe? No, actually, I think this could be a very interesting experiment, he says, stepping away from the papers. Additionally, I believe I know how to get these things working. Ooh, is autoerotic asphyxiation at all involved? Talia asks. Because that's my... Stop talking, he replies. No, not even close. From what I've read, it seems we all need to lie down on these pawns beds and put on these glass objects, which they've named interpreters, like onto our heads, and then flip that switch. Once the switch is on, the pawns will activate and the process will begin. What process? Adora asks. Well, I haven't read that far, he admits. However, I could sift through the mountain of documents for a few hours and take a guess. Nope, hard pass. I'll take my chances, thank you, Caden says, rushing over to the nearest bed. Everyone pick a pod and get ready for the ride of your lives. Caden, we don't even know if these things work anymore, Cora says as she reluctantly hops into a bed. For all we know, these things weren't even completed. That is a risk I'm willing to take. I shake my head and choose the bed beside Caden. Cora's on the other side of me, with Josiah next to her. Talia lay in the one next to him, and Adora took her sister's other side. It's at that moment I realize that there are exactly 6 pawns machines, one for each of us. We completely circle the room so that Adora lay beside Caden. Anybody else find it suspicious that there are exactly 6 beds and 6 of us? Josiah grumbles. Like, creepy suspicious? I was just thinking the same thing, I say. Oh, you worry too much, Talia says, trying to pinch his cheek. And you worry not at all, Josiah replies, brushing her hand aside. So I think that balances things out a bit. Josiah brings his interpreter down over his face, so I mimic his lead. The inside glass is completely clear, and there's no cord or wire to connect the display. Maybe Cora was right, and they never were finished. Well, who's going to flip the switch? Adora asks with a yawn. Her yawn is contagious, and suddenly I feel sleepy too. That's what I get for not eating breakfast. I got it, Caden volunteers. He jumps out of bed, runs over to the switch, and flips it down without a second thought. He sprints back to his machine and slams the interpreter down to ensure he hasn't missed out on anything. Moments go by without any response. There's a slight whirring noise within the hourglass machine, but neither the pawns nor the interpreter seem to be functioning. I shift back and forth in my machine, waiting for something to happen. Seconds age into minutes without any results. Shockingly, it isn't going to work. Well, Caden, I guess that's it. We tried, I mutter. I try pushing the interpreter away from my face, but it's stuck. Of course. Just a little longer, Kale, Caden pleads. He wants it to work so badly, but he's investing in another lost cause. Another disappointment we'll all learn to live with. I try to remove my interpreter again, but it won't budge. With my luck, it's probably busted. I'll have to wait for someone else to help me out. Is anyone else's interpreter thingy stuck? Talia calls out. Like, really stuck? I hear her pushing aggressively against her interpreter, remembering her mild case of claustrophobia. Mild in the sense that she avoids confined spaces as much as humanly possible, because the results were less than pleasant. Calm down, Talia, Josiah says calmly. Look, you have tons of room. I can hear him trying to get up to no avail. His interpreter is locked in place too. It's no coincidence. Something is happening. What the hell? Mine's stuck too, Cora exclaims. Everyone except Adora and Caden wrestle with their devices in vain. No matter how hard I push, it doesn't budge. I hear Talia begin to hyperventilate as Josiah continues to try to calm her down. Suddenly, the inside of the glass flashes. Everyone must have experienced the same thing, because the room is completely quiet. I hear static buzzing in my ears as tiny, bouncing lines form across the screen. The bouncing lines slowly begin to twist and bend into shapes and colors. The static becomes louder, and the shapes transform into blurred images. A tingling rises up from the back of my skull, but I can't move. I feel lightheaded, like my mind is being emptied out. All I can do is helplessly watch the screen. The blurred images clear into still pictures, and the static evens out into words and sounds. Memories play out like a supercut of my life. Snapshot after snapshot of different events flash before my eyes. I see myself as a child, and my sister too, playing in our backyard. I can see my parents in a graveyard, and my friends as small children. My first day at school, Christmases, and even my darkest memory all resurface on the screen. Laughter, crying, and screaming fill my ears. A searing pain rips through my brain and consumes me with terror. I let out a scream, which is met with the screams and laughters of my friends. Real screams and laughters. They too are experiencing the same pain and joy as I am, rushing through a lifetime of memories, all at once. It's like being torn apart. Tears sting my eyes, and I try to close them, but can't. It's all so overwhelming, so I reach for something, anything to tether me back to this moment. I stretch out my hand and find my friend's hands there to catch me. I feel Caden in one hand and Cora in the other as my body spirals into nothing. I can no longer breathe, yet I'm still screaming or laughing. I can't tell anymore. My grip on my friends tightens as sensations continue to intensify. At any moment, my heart will give out and I'll die. The pressure is crushing and shows no sign of giving up. The memories become brighter and brighter, the sounds louder and louder. I free fall into my own life at the speed of sound. There's another flash, brighter than anything before it, and then silence. The last thing I remember is the promise we made one another. We stick together, no matter what.